This is KCBD News Channel 11 at 4.
Another European city is seeing the effects of an ISIS terrorist attack that has left more than 30 people dead. Good afternoon. Thanks so much for joining us today at 4. I'm Christy Harton. Belgium has raised its terror threat level to its highest, and surrounding European countries remain on alert. This in the wake of 2 attacks during today's rush hour in the capital of Brussels. The Belgian government reports at least 30 people are dead, more than 230 injured. ISIS has claimed responsibility. Karen Kaifa has the latest developments and the U.S. response.
In Washington, Karen Kaifa, KCBD News Channel 11.
Belgium's prime minister said that the country will observe 3 days of national mourning to honor the victims of the attack. And since Brussels is a city where Texas Tech students go while visiting abroad, the university has halted any travel to that city amid the attacks. The vice provost of international affairs for Tech's Tibor Naj says there are 4 Tech students who were in Brussels during the attacks. However, thankfully, they are all safe and accounted for.
No program scheduled now in Brussels or Belgium for the summer or even the fall. I hope it's a temporary suspension because Brussels is one of the most beautiful cities in the world, and it's been a popular destination.
He says Texas Tech is constantly monitoring conditions overseas to ensure that all students studying abroad are safe. Naj tells us that as the program to Belgium are suspended, students who are currently abroad will not be able to travel there either. While the manhunt continues for suspects in the Brussels attacks, the race to find a newly identified Paris attacker is underway. The manhunt is now on for Najim Loushraoui. His DNA was found in houses in southern Belgium and Brussels that the terrorists used. This manhunt follows the capture of Salah Abdeslam, who is considered the mastermind of the Paris attacks. He was arrested on Friday in Belgium during a police raid and is now in custody. 130 people were killed during the November attacks in Paris. Back here at home, the South Plains could see record heat today and an increased fire danger. John has been monitoring for us. He's in the First Alert Forecast Center with the very latest. And John, we actually did hit that record high.
As a matter of fact, we did, Christy. Made it up to 87 degrees.
Okay, thanks so much, John. Police say a Walmart employee was shot and killed inside the department store south of Dallas. The Kaufman County Sheriff's Office says a 55-year-old man walked into the store's garden center and shot a 59-year-old male employee. They say the shooter then turned the gun on himself. He was taken to a Dallas hospital. His condition is unknown at this time. Authorities believe the 2 men were friends. Police have not released the names of the suspect nor the victim. The store was placed on lockdown after the shooting. No other injuries have been reported. The trooper who was fired after he pulled over Sandra Bland was in court today. Brian Encina is facing perjury charges related to Bland's arrest. You might remember she was found unresponsive in a Waller County jail over the summer. Bland's death was ruled a suicide. 2 teenagers are in the hospital after a shootout inside of a car at Georgia State University. The shootout happened last night in the parking lot of a residence hall. Police say 18-year-old Brian Roden shot 19-year-old Shelton Flournoy II 3 times while attempting to sell him and someone else drugs. Roden was shot once in the chest. Both face attempted murder charges once they're out of the hospital. Jurors in the Hulk Hogan sex tape case have added another $25 million to the $115 million they already awarded the ex-wrestler. The jury deliberated nearly 4 hours before deciding on the punitive part of the case. Hogan sued Gawker Media, its founder, and a former editor for violating his privacy by posting a snippet of his sex tape. The 6 jurors said that Gawker was liable for $15 million in punitive damages and Denton was liable for $10 million.
I feel great. I'm really happy about everything that's happened, and I think we made history today because I think we protected a lot of people from maybe going through what I went through, so we're very excited and very happy.
The former editor was found liable for an additional $100,000. Indian Wells Tournament Director and CEO Raymond Moore has resigned from his duties after his remarks about women tennis players drew widespread criticism and outrage. He said he wanted to be a woman tennis player in his next life because they ride on the coattails of the men in the sport. He also added that they are lucky and should go down on their knees every night thanking God, Roger Federer and Rafael Nadal, who were born because they have carried the sport Many people labeled his comments as sexist, including tennis great Billie Jean King, who tweeted yesterday that Moore is wrong on so many levels because every player has contributed to the sport's success. President Obama wrapped up his historic trip to Cuba this afternoon with one last sit down with Cuban leader Raul Castro, this time to discuss and watch baseball, the national pastime that has been a bond between the two countries for decades. Jay Gray has been traveling with the president in Cuba. He joins us from Havana with details. Jay.
Hey there, good evening, Christy. President Obama maintained his regular schedule on his final day here in Cuba, but all the while getting updates, we're told, on the situation in Brussels. Jay Gray, KCBD News Channel 11. Christy, back to you.
Thanks, Jay. In the race for the White House, a new poll shows Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton are still the top choices for their parties. According to a CNN ORC poll, 47% of Republicans say they would like to see Trump win their party's nomination. 47%. That's nearly the 49% he received in February. On the Democrat side, Hillary Clinton tops Sanders in the race for the party's nod. 51% over there say they would like to see the former Secretary of State atop the party's ticket in November, compared to the 44% who want Sanders. Well, the Lady Shaps are moving on to the next round of the NCAA tournament. They beat Florida Southern 73-69. KCBD Sports' Devin Ward is in Sioux Falls with more on today's game. Devin, it was a nail-biter down to that last 2 minutes.
It really was. It was a roller coaster of emotions for all fans, and including myself. Basketball is traditionally a game of runs. Who gets hot towards the end of the game, and Florida Southern was hot towards the end of the game, but LSU managed to be able to pull out the win 73-69, and now they were able to enjoy that win for very little, because now they're watching the game that's going on back behind me. Bentley versus Virginia Union. That's the team. Whoever wins this game is who they're going to be playing next, and they're in the Final Four. This team is super excited, but they know they got more business to do down here in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. It's exciting, but we got one more game to go. Christy, I'll send it back to you.
Devin, I don't know if you can hear me, but this has been like one of the toughest games that we've seen the girls play for LCU. It's been kind of, they've had a 10, 20-point lead going into the end of most of these games, and this was down to the wire.
It really was. Traditionally, LCU scores, like the two games before this, they scored 30 points in the first quarter. And in this game, they only scored 11 in the first quarter. So the whole game was a battle through and through for LCU. And they know they got another test. They're in the Final Four now. It's big for LCU, but they got another test tomorrow. The winner of the Virginia Union versus Bentley game. And hopefully they can get out to a fast start in that game.
Thanks so much, Devin. We'll be cheering them on. A bunny brawl caught on camera. We'll tell you what started this fight in the middle of a New Jersey mall. That's still to come and what's trending. And later, wild winds across the South Plains. John's tracking when they might settle down in his windcast. But first, a big surprise for X Game fans. We'll tell you what's changed that has a lot of people angry. New warnings today from the Food and Drug Administration about the potential serious risks associated with opioid pain medications. The FDA is requiring box warnings on all opioid products about the possibilities of abuse, addiction, misuse, overdose, and even death. The instructions will also caution that the medications only be used for severe pain that is resistant to alternative drugs. The guidelines encourage physicians to try other methods for treating pain before prescribing an opioid. You can soon cruise to Cuba. Carnival has won approval to start sailing to the communist country. The, quote, cultural exchange trips will start in May. A 704-passenger ship will initially visit ports in Havana, Cienfuegos, and Santiago de Cuba. There won't be casinos or Broadway shows aboard, and guests won't be able to snorkel. Instead, travelers must spend at least 8 hours each day involved in some type of cultural experience. It leaves out of Miami with prices starting at $1,800 per person. Starbucks wants to donate all of its leftover food to help feed the hungry across the U.S. The company says it will aim to contribute 100% of its leftover food to Feeding America, which runs a national network of food banks. CEO Howard Schultz says the idea actually came from baristas behind the counter. Starbucks plans to give out 5 million meals this year, including breakfast sandwiches, paninis, and salads. The company has invested in research to determine the best way to ensure food stays safe until it is consumed. Well, this will be the last year for the X Games in Austin, and the decision to move means a breach of contract. The Summer Games will still be played in the state's capital this year, but will be somewhere else in 2017. That means the Games are breaking a 4-year contract a year early. Reasons for the decision and where the Games are going have not been released just yet. Organizers say they are already taking requests for a new location. Tickets for this summer's X Games go on sale March 24th. The event will be June 2nd through the 5th. It wasn't show and tell, but it was a little too close for comfort. An uninvited guest gets wrangled from a Florida school. That video up next in What's Trending. Welcome back. Time now to take a look at those videos that are grabbing attention on the web and across the globe in today's What's Trending. Meeting the Easter Bunny can be a happy tradition, but it's also been known to be a little scary. But everyone probably got freaked out when a brawl broke out between an Easter Bunny and a shopper at this Jersey City mall. The floppy gloves came off after a shopper got angry when his child fell off of the bunny's lap. Words were exchanged, then out came the rabbit punches. Both men were charged with assault and both had outstanding warrants. Authorities confirmed that the warrant for the bunny was for fair hopping. That is the sound of an Easter egg hunt specially designed for visually impaired children. This event is in California, using technology to allow blind children to participate in the holiday tradition. Lubbock actually held a similar event this past weekend. The eggs emit a loud beeping sound, allowing the kids to use their ears instead of their eyes. And from hunting eggs to tracking gators, official at a school in Lakeland, Florida had to call in professional trappers to wrangle a nearly 10-foot alligator that showed up on the school grounds. Look, he's barefoot. Officials believe the gator was just cutting through campus on its way to a nearby lake. No one was hurt, and the big guy was released back into the lake. A dog in New York is getting a bit of a reputation as an artist. Meet Dagger, who's also known as Dog Vinci. Originally, the 3-year-old black lab was to be a helper dog for those with disabilities, but his fear of the stairs disqualified him. Then his human, who's also an artist, discovered he had a love of painting.
He always lays down next to me, and one day he was nudging me, and I said, "Do you want to paint, Dagger?" And his tail started to wag. He was so excited to see the brushstroke on that canvas. It was almost as if his whole world had opened up.
Dagger paints by following his human's commands and uses a brush made out of duct tape and a paper towel tube that he holds in his mouth. His paintings sell for between $50 and $100 per canvas. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
This is KCBD News Channel 11 at 5.
A fiery crash early this morning has left 1 man dead and 3 others injured after a simple roadside fix turned deadly. Good afternoon and thank you for joining us today at 5. I'm Gloria DeLeon. Friends are mourning the loss of 20-year-old Joseph Espinosa, who died after that car crash. Police say he was changing a flat tire on his Mustang on Interstate 27 near 40th Street. That's when a truck crashed into him. KCBD News Channel 11 Sasha Wilson joins us live from the scene with more. Sasha.
Gloria, Espinosa was fixing that flat in a southbound lane just over this way. Witnesses tell us that they tried to perform CPR on Espinosa, but he died at UMC. Now, 18-year-old Mia Brittany Vieira was in the car when the truck hit. Witnesses say they pulled her from the car just moments before it burst into flames. Vieira remains in critical condition at UMC. The driver and the passenger of the truck suffered minor injuries. Their names have not yet been released. Espinosa's friends describe him as a people person.
He was awesome. He was full of sarcasm, jokes. He always knew how to light up a room. He was definitely the life of the party. It's just so crazy that it's gone.
Police blocked off the southbound lanes of the interstate for hours and directed traffic onto the 34th Street exit. We are told the accident investigation team is still investigating this crash. Now, coming up at 6, we'll hear from family and friends who are in absolute disbelief over his tragic death. Gloria?
All right, thanks so much, Sasha. We continue to follow the latest on a story we first brought you today on KCBD News Channel 11 at 4. Former Texas Tech University professor Sam Bradley, who now works for the University of South Florida, is on paid administrative leave because of allegations that followed him from Tech. USF tells us Bradley was placed on leave Wednesday after the school received a report from Tech that Bradley had intimate relationships with several students during his time in Lubbock. The initial investigation here took place in 2012. KCBD has obtained the 87-page investigation report from Tech, which says, quote, the investigation was concluded by December 11, 2012. According to those documents, Dr. Bradley was advised on that date of the findings of the investigation, which stated he did in fact engage in inappropriate behavior with at least 4 students in his department. The report goes on to say that Bradley's behavior violated several university policies. In a statement from USF, university officials tell us this information was not disclosed to them during the hiring process, either by the employee or the employee's former employer. A cold front could change your Easter plans, but will cooler temperatures stick around all day? John joins us from the First Alert Forecast Center with more. John.
Well, Gloria, we do have a couple of things going on in West Texas. There's going to be 2 frontal boundaries coming in.
All right, thanks so much, John. The Pentagon is claiming a victory today in the fight against ISIS, announcing the death of the group's number 2 leader. U.S. officials won't say exactly when or how the ISIS finance minister was killed, but they are talking about what it means. Brian Moore has a story from Washington. Brian.
Gloria, U.S. officials call this a strategic blow to ISIS and also say it was one name on a very long list. And I'm Brian Moore, KCBD News Channel 11. Gloria, back to you.
Okay, thanks so much, Brian. President Obama is back in the U.S. after his 6-day Latin America trip. Next week, the president is scheduled to attend the Nuclear Security Summit in Washington to talk about battling ISIS with dozens of world leaders. Today, Belgian investigators collected evidence from a public transport platform in Brussels where a bomb disposal unit was deployed earlier. The mayor of Brussels says that the raid was linked to the investigation into this week's suicide bombings. He said that one person has been, quote, neutralized in that operation. He did not say whether that meant the person was arrested or wounded. For the first time, we are hearing from one of 3 Utah missionaries injured in the attacks. 19-year-old Mason Wells is missionary with Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and he was reunited with his family for the first time after the attacks. He and 2 colleagues had just dropped off a fellow missionary at the airport when explosions ripped through the building.
I was actually very conscious. I was conscious for you know, the whole 4 hours following the bombs, and even when they went off. My burn injuries and the injury to my foot, I know, came from the first blast. I actually saw fire in front of my face and on the ground around me, and I know that the burns came from that. My body.
This was not Wells' first brush with terror. He was in Boston to watch his mother run the marathon in 2013 when the Tsarnaev brothers set off shrapnel-filled bombs that killed 3 and wounded more. He was also in Paris in November when the French capital was attacked by Belgium-based terrorists. A Georgia woman's Belgian boyfriend is one of the 31 people killed in the terrorist attacks. Emily Eisenman says Bart Meagam was on his way to Athens, Georgia to meet her, and that he was last heard from Tuesday morning. Meagam's mother was notified today that her 21-year-old son was killed. Eisenman said that he had been studying marketing at Howes University in Belgium. The couple met last year on a health and fitness retreat in the U.S. They started dating back in October. And stay with KCBD.com and NBC News for the latest on the Brussels attacks. Now to a fatal fire at an apartment complex in Harris County that left dozens homeless this morning. Firefighters say at least 1 person died in the 2-alarm blaze early this morning, and another is unaccounted for. 26 units were damaged along with several cars. Residents described only having seconds to escape.
There was a big ball of fire upstairs, and we tried to get outside of the front door, but we were unable to get outside. So what we did is we broke the bedroom window. Dozens of residents are now burned out of their homes. The Red Cross is helping those victims.
Texas officials say a body matching the description of a San Antonio teen who went missing from South Padre Island has been found in Mexico. Mexican authorities say the discovery was made along the beach, and they believe the victim may be 18-year-old Justin Kirby Walker. Cameron County Park Rangers say the body was wearing a shirt matching clothing worn by Walker. The victim also has a UME bracelet on, which is the concert where Walker was last seen. The teen's parents are at South Padre Island waiting for paperwork to go to Mexico. Fingerprints are being taken to verify a positive ID. Right now, a Veterans Administration facility in El Paso has been given an all clear. Just a few hours ago, they were placed on temporary lockdown after unconfirmed reports of an alleged armed man. William Beaumont AMC tweeted that a person wearing a tan t-shirt, black shorts, and a baseball cap entered William Beaumont Army Medical Center with 2 soft rifle cases and ammo cans. They have since tweeted that non-mission essential personnel will be evacuated. William Beaumont Army Medical Center has issued a code white shelter in place. The individual was last seen in the vicinity of the first floor of the dining hall courtyard area near the bus stop. Military police are on site assisting with the search. No other information has been released at this time. We will keep you updated as we learn more. A man accused of rushing the stage at a Donald Trump event earlier this month in Ohio was in court today. Thomas DeMasmio was in federal court this morning, where he entered a not guilty plea to a single charge of entering a restricted building without lawful authority. The charge stems from a rally on March 12th where the 22-year-old jumped a barricade and charged at the stage where Donald Trump was speaking. DeMasmio's attorney says the Wright State University student only intended to express his political views. DeMasmio faces a maximum sentence of 1 year in prison, $100,000 in fines, and a year of probation. His next court date is set for March 31st. According to a new poll, most Americans appear to be ready for a new Supreme Court justice. A new CNN ORC poll shows 52% of Americans want the Senate to confirm President Obama's pick to replace Justice Antonin Scalia. The president nominated Merrick Garland to fill the open seat, but Senate Republicans have refused to hold a confirmation hearing. According to the poll, 2/3 of Americans want the Senate to hold confirmation hearings on his nomination. Chief Justice John Roberts is the only one to enter the confirmation process with more public support. 59% say the Senate should vote in favor of his nomination. An arrest that seems like it would be straight up out of a movie left one North Carolina man in handcuffs. We'll tell you why. And spring may have just sprung, but some Houston residents aren't happy with their new neighbors. We'll tell you what all the buzz is about. Plus, if you're traveling for Easter, you might want to get to the airport sooner. We'll tell you why. But if you're staying here, John will have your complete first alert forecast with what you can expect here on the South Plains. A North Carolina man has been arrested for failing to return a VHS tape that he rented back in 2002. James Myers says he was driving his daughter to school on Tuesday when he was pulled over for a broken taillight. When the officers ran Myers' driver's license, he found that there was a warrant issued from 2002 when Myers failed to return a movie.
The guy brings me to the back of the car and he goes, "Sir, I don't know how to tell you this, but there's a warrant for your arrest from 2002. Apparently you rented a movie, Freddy Got Fingered, and you never returned it. So there's a civil suit that they process as a criminal case, and we're here to take you to jail."
Myers says the officers let him take his daughter to school and go to work as long as he promised to turn himself into the police department later that day. Myers was booked on a failure to return rental property damage. Spring has barely sprung and already bees are causing problems across Houston. A large hive was formed inside the exterior paneling of one particular West Houston home. After the residents were stung multiple times, they decided to call in the professionals. Yesterday, a pest control worker removed about 50,000 bees and 50 pounds of honey from the hive inside the wall. Bee experts say the current mild weather makes the bees particularly active. They suspect this will be a busier than normal year for pest control and beekeepers. Love Field Airport will have more security this weekend as it expects an influx of passengers. Some 18,000 passengers are expected to pass through the Dallas airport today alone. Officials at the airport issued an alert and brought in extra staff for today and tomorrow. On a normal day, Love Field generally has between 10,000 and 15,000 passengers. Love Field is asking travelers to arrive an hour and a half early so they don't miss their flights. Well, if you're looking for a job, you're in luck. KCBD.com has launched the virtual job fair. Today, all job seekers will have the opportunity to connect with area employers online. It's just like any other job fair with lots of prospective employers and plenty of opportunities, except you don't need your dress clothes and briefcase for this one. Just log on to KCBD.com and follow the link to the virtual job fair. Scroll over any company's name to see their current job openings. You can apply directly online or use a business's contact information to get in contact with them.